Once upon a time, in a land where the sun dripped honey and the raindrops tasted like sweet tea, there lived a bullfrog named Kroaker. Now, Kroaker wasn't your ordinary frog. No siree, Bob. He had dreams, big, juicy dreams of becoming the world's greatest singer. And boy, did he have the voice to match, a rich baritone that rumbled like distant thunder. Every day, Kroaker would stand on his lily pad and belt out tunes that echoed across the pond. Ribbit, 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 ribbit. He'd boom, sending ripples dancing on the water's surface. And though his heart swelled with each resounding note, nobody seemed to appreciate his gift. The turtles sunning on logs pretended they hadn't heard a peep. The dragonflies zipping between water lilies acted like they were deaf. And the chorus of crickets chirping in the tall grass ignored him completely. Poor Kroaker felt like a frog with a banjo in a world full of folks who didn't care for folk music. It hurt his little froggy heart. One particularly gloomy afternoon, after a failed attempt at serenading a pretty green tree frog, Kroaker sat on his lily pad, feeling sorry for himself. The sky, which had been as blue and cheerful as a blue jay's back, had turned the color of a bullfrog's throat, which is quite dark, you know. Fat raindrops began splattering into the pond, each one echoing the dismal tune in Kroaker's heart. Suddenly, a wise old turtle poked his head above the water. He saw the dejected look on Kroaker's face and said, "Why the long face, son?" Kroaker sighed and poured out his froggy heart to the wise old turtle, telling him about his dream of becoming the world's greatest singer and how it seemed like nobody appreciated his gift. The wise old turtle listened patiently, nodding his head slowly. When Kroaker finished his tale, the old turtle said, "Kroaker, my boy, your voice may indeed be the greatest singing voice this side of the Mississippi, but that doesn't mean folks are gonna flock to hear you sing. You see, talent ain't enough. You gotta have an audience too. And right now, your audience is asleep." Kroaker blinked his big golden eyes. "Asleep? But it's only 4 o'clock. Isn't it a tad early for a frog to go to sleep?" The wise old turtle chuckled, a sound like rocks tumbling in a stream. "That's just it, son. You're thinking like a frog. To have an audience, you gotta think like the critters who want to hear you sing. And for them, it's almost bedtime." Kroaker thought about this. The idea of singing just for the heck of it didn't appeal to him much, but the thought of having an audience, well, that got his heart thumping like a drum solo in a marching band. He asked the wise old turtle, "So what do I do? Should I start singing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon?" The turtle shook his head. No, son. That's way too early. For your first concert, you gotta wait till nighttime when everybody's ready for a good song." With that, the wise old turtle slid back into the water, leaving Kroaker with more questions than a frog at a fly swatter convention. What exactly made a good song? How did he get critters to come and hear him sing? And would anybody even like his songs? As the rain poured down, washing away Kroaker's gloom, he decided he needed a plan. And so he did something a lot of folks don't do. He took a step back and listed out all his options. Could he make up a song about a frog who dreams of being a singer? Nah, too corny. How about a ballad about a frog and a turtle who become best friends? Nope, not original enough. Then an idea struck him like a bolt of lightning in a thunderstorm. He'd sing about the critters of the pond. There were songs about everything under the sun except for the animals of Willow Pond. Why not fill that gap with his very own tunes? And besides, there were some pretty interesting characters living around here. Old Man Turtle, who always seemed to know the answer to everything. Miss Pollyanna Bullhead, who spent all her time gossiping with the dragonflies. Eddie Otter, who could turn any quiet evening into a party. And of course, the beautiful Beatrice Blue Heron, who looked like a princess in her long flowing gown of feathers. With a heart full of excitement, Kroaker started writing his songs. He wrote about Old Man Turtle, his wisdom shining like a beacon in the darkest night. About Miss Pollyanna Bullhead, her gossip traveling faster than a school of minnows. About Eddie Otter, always ready with a joke or a song, and about Beatrice Blue Heron, her grace and beauty, a sight to behold at the break of dawn. As the days passed, Kroaker wrote and practiced, his voice growing stronger and richer with each passing hour. He learned how to hold a note like a bullfrog opera singer, and how to make the bass drum of his throat rumble like distant thunder. Finally, he felt ready. And then one magical evening, as the sun dipped below the tall trees and painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Kroaker stood on his lily pad and sang his very first concert. The critters of Willow Pond came from far and wide to hear their stories sung by a bullfrog with a golden voice. Old Man Turtle nodded his head slowly, a tear rolling down his wrinkled cheek. Miss Pollyanna Bullhead tapped her fin to the beat, her eyes sparkling with delight. Eddie Otter. Well, he danced in the moonlight, howling like a wolf at the full moon. And even Beatrice Blue Heron, who usually kept her emotions hidden behind her cool, calm demeanor, couldn't help but sway to the rhythm of Kroaker's song. When the last note faded into the night, the pond was filled with applause. Crickets chirped, bullheads slapped their tails, and otters whistled in appreciation. And in the middle of it all stood Kroaker, his heart swelling with happiness. For the first time, he understood what it meant to be a singer. It wasn't just about having a great voice. It was about sharing your gifts with others and making them feel something, anything. And as the critters of Willow Pond gathered around him, telling him how much they loved his songs, Kroaker knew he had found his audience. From that day on, Kroaker wasn't just a bullfrog with a big voice. He was Kroaker, the bullfrog, the singer, storyteller of Willow Pond. His songs became a part of their lives, a reminder that even the smallest frog can dream big dreams, and that the greatest gift you can give is the gift of song. And so, little ones, whenever you hear the sweet strains of a song echoing in the twilight or the gentle lull of a melody floating on the breeze, remember that somewhere out there, a bullfrog with a golden voice is singing his heart out, sharing his gift with the world. Just like Kroaker, the bullfrog, singer-storyteller of Willow Pond. Once upon a time,